You see him right there? He's an icon. Hey guys, my name is Miranda and welcome back to my universe! Today we are going to be talking about the 20 authors that I hopefully will read in 2020. First author that I really want to read in 2020 is actually one of my personal favorite authors, and I have read most of her books already, and that is Cassandra Clare. Cassandra Clare is the author of all of the Shadowhunter Chronicles. So Infernal Devices, Mortal Instruments, Dark Artifices, the whole shebang. She's actually coming out with a new series, and the first book is called Chain of Gold, and it's coming out March 3rd of 2020. So that's the one that I really want to read. The second author I want to read is actually an author that I have tried to read books by, and it just never worked out for me, and that is Jane Austen. Jane Austen writes a lot of classic literature. If you haven't heard about her, I don't know what you've been doing, because she is probably one of the most famous authors. Her books are actually still being turned into movies to this day, so I think that is phenomenal. She has accomplished so much when she was writing, and she's an icon, okay? The third author I want to read is one that I read a lot of books by this past year, and that is Stephen King. Stephen King, aka the King of Horror, writes all horror thriller books that are just really creepy and scary, and they make you think about deeper issues in society, and I'm all about it. I recently got into his writing this past year, so in 2020 I really do want to read more of his books because I love. The fourth author that I am going to read in 2020. It's Mary Lou. Oh no, Baby Yoda disappeared. Okay, there he is. He's back again. We're fine. It's okay. We're okay. Mary Lou is a young adult dystopian fantasy kind of, I've never read her books, so I don't know exactly what genre she writes about. A lot of my best friends have read her Legends series, and I actually have the entire trilogy. I just have never picked them up. So 2020 is the year that I'm going to pick up that series. I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna finish it, and it's gonna be a good time, you know? The fifth author I want to read more of is it's once again one of my favorite authors. I just never have read the rest of his series, and that is Rick Riordan. Rick Riordan is the author of all of the Percy Jackson books, all of the Greek gods, Roman gods. In 2018, I read the Percy Jackson series for the first time, and I read Heroes of Olympus. But after I finished with Heroes of Olympus, I kind of just stopped, and I never picked up Rick Riordan's books again. So I definitely need to pick up the pace. The sixth, I think we're on sixth author now, is Maureen Johnson. Now, Maureen Johnson, she has written the first two books in, I think it's a trilogy, but it's the Truly Devious trilogy, and I have read the first two books in this series, and oh my gosh, it's so good. Third and I believe final book in this series is called Hand on the Wall, and it's coming out January 21st. Yeah. The next author I want to read more of is Sarah J. Maas. This year I actually read A Court of Thorns and Roses by her. I read the entire trilogy. I know more books are coming out, but I read the trilogy and it was alright. But I've never read Throne of Glass by her, and that is the series that is the one that's blown up all of the time on BookTube. The next author is Neal Shusterman. Now, he is the author of the Scythe trilogy, which the third book recently came out this past year, and I haven't read it. He's also one of the authors of the book Dry, which I also have on my shelves, but I have yet to read. So I know that this year is going to be the year that I finally read his books. The next author I want to read in 2020 would be Leigh Bardugo. If you don't know, Leigh Bardugo, oh my gosh, she is the author of Six of Crows, of Shadow and Bone, of the Nikolai trilogy. She actually is coming out with the second book to King of Scars, which is up there. I'm not taking it down, so I'll just put it up here. But this is King of Scars. She's coming out with the second book sometime in 2020. All right, let's talk about an author that kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, but now she's coming back with a bang, and that is Suzanne Collins, and she is the author of The Hunger Games. She is actually coming out with another book in the universe of The Hunger Games. Do you believe it? Are you shook? Because I'm shook. It's called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and it is coming out May 19th of 2020. The next author I want to read is Roshani Chotsky, and she is actually the author of The Gilded Wolves. The second book to The Gilded Wolves is called The Silvered Serpents, and it's coming out September 22nd, and I'm very excited for it. All right, so this next author is an author that I have to read. It is V.E. Schwab, and I specifically want to read her series, A Darker Shade of Magic. I currently own the box set of that series, and I've just never gotten down to reading it. I need her writing in my life, you know what I'm saying? Next author I want to read in 2020 is Saba Tahir, and she actually has written a fantasy young adult series called An Ember in the Ashes. I've never read An Ember in the Ashes, so I'm planning on reading it. All right, so this next author is actually one that I do not own any books by, and this is Jay Kristoff. He has written several different series. He has co-written the Illuminae Files series. He's also written the Nevernight series. Anyway, a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, action. Let's talk about an author that my mom makes fun of me whenever I say his name, because apparently I don't know how to say his last name, but this is J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien? I mean, she's right. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, okay? I'm sorry. Lord of the Rings. Never read it. I tried reading Lord of the Rings this past February, and I just put myself under so much pressure to read it that it just didn't happen. I just want to know what happens in Lord of the Rings, you know what I'm saying? Okay, let's talk about Brandon Sanderson for a second. Brandon Sanderson, author of Mistborn and a ton of other fantasy books. Never read any of his books, okay? I'm pretty sure he writes adult fantasy books. I have yet to read an adult fantasy book. I'm not counting A Court of Thorns and Roses as adult fantasy, okay? It's like very not good. I really want to read some of his books to kind of get the gist about it, and I've heard excellent things about Mistborn. All right, time to talk about a series that everybody tells me to read. That's Frank Herbert, and he is the author of the Dune series. Let me just say, I would never read Dune on my own if it wasn't for a ton of people in my life who actually love the Dune series and actually have very much encouraged me to pick it up and read it. Dune is just there on my shelf, and I have no idea what to make of it. I have no idea if I'm gonna enjoy it or not, but I do know I'm going to end up reading Dune at some point. The 18th, I haven't been keeping track, but I had to count again. But the 18th author I want to read is Karen McManus. I read her book, One of Us is Lying, and she actually is coming out with the sequel to that book, One of Us is Next? I think that's what it's called. It's coming out in 2020. I'm super stoked about it. Y'all have to have heard of the Diviners series by Libba Bray, okay? I've never read it. I'm sorry. Diviners is a paranormal sci-fi, maybe? Fantasy? I'm not exactly sure. I also really like paranormal things. So there's that. And the last author that I want to read in 2020 is Carrie Maniscalco. Oh my gosh, it randomly started playing. That was so scary. I lost Baby Yoda now. Okay, I'll let it play until it goes to, there we go. Baby Yoda and The Mandalorian. My two mans. Anyway, Carrie Maniscalco, we were talking about her. She's coming out with another book in 2020. I'm not sure what it's called. I'm not sure when it's supposed to come out, but I do know that she announced the publication of another book, and I'm very much here for it. All right, everybody, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Please be safe, make good choices, and I'll see you next week.